Welcome to the Games Talk Live podcast. Got a great show for you today. What the hell am I doing with that music today? I got a great show for you guys. I've got the one and only Deadly Headley here. He goes by the same name here on YouTube. First time here, and I'm glad to have him. I've been actually following your content for quite some time, man. It's been a while, like a few months. I've been following you. I've subscribed immediately. I saw one of your videos. I forgot which one it was, but immediately after I watched, I was like, "This guy does good content here. He's really good." So subscribe, and I usually do that with people, especially when I see people that are good that are like not getting the love I think they deserve, and I think you're one of those guys. So welcome.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'm pretty new to the content space, but I've really enjoyed my time so far making content. It's a really fun way of creative expression, and obviously get to contribute to this amazing space and this awesome community. It's been a really good time.
Yeah. So what got you started in this space? Like what made you say, "Hey, I'm going to start a YouTube channel," and all that? What got you started?
Do you want the Deadly Headley origin story?
Yes, I do.
I'm gonna turn the clock back a little bit, because I think it's kind of been a long time coming. So, um, I have a set of skills that kind of make me a very good content creator without trying to sort of blow my own trumpet too much. And I think that kind of goes back to like when I was at school, always really loved writing. I was a pretty average performer at school. Actually ended up flunking my final exams pretty badly. Like I think probably the equivalent of your SATs.
Oh, wow.
It did not go well at all, and I ended up with we call them A levels here in the UK, which is where I'm from. If you couldn't tell,
I couldn't tell. Couldn't tell.
I left school with one A level in English, which was really the only subject I actually liked and really enjoyed. There were some others, but unfortunately I didn't really get to dabble in those as much as I might have wanted to. And I was at this point where I was a bit of a crossroads, so I decided to enroll in a college where I could go and get the qualifications I needed to maybe sort of go on elsewhere and study further in a higher education. So I ended up studying music industry, technology, and performance at a local college for a couple of years, which was really fun. Got to play around with audio equipment, audio editing, live performance with music as well, which was really cool. And at the end of that course, again, sort of came to a crossroads. Didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. And one of my teachers said, "Hey, you really like writing. You're a good writer. You clearly really like music. Why don't you go and study music journalism?" At which point my response was, "Is that a thing?" To which the answer was, yes, it absolutely is a thing. So I went to university to go and study a degree in music journalism and broadcasting. I left that qualification. I obviously passed all my exams, got my degree. I actually wanted to go into graphic design, which is really where I ended up next. A whole load of like retraining and paying for a whole new course and all that sort of stuff. A lot of time in education, just figuring out what I wanted to do and getting good at the things I wanted to do. And I mean, I became a designer about 7 years ago.
Nice.
7-8 years ago now. And this year, after listening to podcasts like yours, by the way, which is on in my car most Monday mornings, believe it or not.
I appreciate you, man.
On the audio version.
Don't believe you, but I appreciate the sentiment.
Same goes for guys like Cole Eastwood, Xbox Era, Game On Daily, which I was on the other week, which was really fun.
Go live,
which was how we met and we got to hang out, so that was really cool. And I've sort of sat back and listened to the space for a while and just thought, I have all of the qualifications and skills and experience that I need to go and make content and go and talk something that I'm really passionate about, which is video games.
We're such nerds in this space, but I love it.
I know, right? I know. And I just thought, fuck it. what's the worst that could happen? I'll try it. We'll see what happens. I ended up putting out it was a video about the ABK FTC drama when that all blew up.
Yeah,
like back in the
I think those were the videos that I saw you. Yeah,
that might have been it.
Yeah,
I remember you.
I commented, saying, I think, one time. On
I think so.
videos,
So I remember you leaving something really nice on my Starfield review, which was a video I was really, really proud of. And one of the videos has blown up. So yeah, been making content since July, but I think all of those building blocks that sort of go into making content creation, and especially producing something that's high quality. I work in a creative industry where I have to produce quite a lot of high quality material, whether it be something that goes out for print or something digital. And all of it has to be polished and crafted to quite high standards.
And I think that
quality bar inherently is high for me. And there's still some stuff to learn, but aiming for that has been
of
really
course.
Cool.
But and that's one of the qualities about you that I saw right away. It's like when I watch YouTube, I appreciate even the minute details people add into their videos, because I know sometimes those small details can take hours. Small little things that we will sit there and edit it for hours. Like I used to, and I've slacked off for about a year now. I haven't really made a proper video, but back in the day, I would sit there and make videos, and it would take me, up to 8 hours, even longer sometimes, to make a 5-minute video. And it's just that, that creative process it's fun, but it's also one that you keep kind of chasing. You keep wanting to up yourself with the next video and the next video, and you're just constantly looking ahead. And I'm sure you go through that too. It's like that's how us creative types get. We want to outdo ourselves.
I do when I post a video, bearing in mind I've spent so much time in that space, like going over the same section of each video over and over and over again to craft it and refine it. I will still watch that game tape at the very end after I posted it and start picking out all the things.
I've done that many times. It sucks. We'll nitpick to death, but it's good to have you here today. And we're going to go ahead and do something here. I don't know if you watched a lot of my older podcasts here, but I used to do this thing. Well, let's just go ahead and play this little game I call 5 Questions. Ooh, did I? No, hit the wrong button. 5 Questions. That's what I want to play with you. 5 questions. I almost ended the stream, folks. Almost hit the wrong button. It's been a while since I've hit this button. I hit it last week for the guests I had, C Money and Doodle, over at the On Point for Gamers YouTube channel. And it was nice to have a couple that I could play this game with, because they played as one as they were a couple. Usually when I have 2 guests, which I've had many times now, I've not been able to play this game much because, well, it's too hard to just say your name or say, me first and try. You can't buzz in a way to really be fair here. So it's good to have somebody back to where I can just, play this game with one person here. So, okay, so this is how it works. I ask you 5 questions, 4 is trivia, all game related. This day it's going to be RPG related. Okay, that's where we're going. And then the last question, the 5th question, is going to be just subjective, something easy, something good that you can get away with. But if I don't agree with something, even if it's subjective, you can get it wrong. And if it's wrong, you'll hear this. If it's right, you'll hear. So let's go ahead and play this 5 questions. Let me pull it up here.
Putting me on the spot now, man.
Yeah, I wasn't even prepared for this. Bear with me, folks. Getting the questions now. All right. Number 1. Name 3 classes that you can pick from in Baldur's Gate 3. 3 classes. Just 3. There's
Barbarian,
a lot. Barbarian. Paladin.
And Cleric.
You got it. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Let's go.
All right. Number 2. Can you give me the name of just one of the 2 expansions for The Witcher 3? One of the 2.
Blood and Wine.
You got it.
Yeah, let's go.
And the other one would be Hearts of Stone. And both,
I actually didn't know that. I'm not a big Witcher guy.
I love The Witcher 3, and honestly, I personally think that the DLC was some of the best gameplay. I mean, some of the best narrative in that game. Better than the main campaign, actually.
Yeah, I heard that, man.
Aside
Everyone
from the
knows
Baron
me about
Quest.
The Witcher.
Yeah, it's freaking incredible. CD Projekt Red are really great writers as well as they are, game makers. So love their stuff. But let's go on. You're doing very well here, 2 out of 5. Here's number 3. Clive Rossfield is the name of the main protagonist in this game. Clive Rossfield, main protagonist in this game.
RPGs.
Clive.
Oh man, I'm drawing a blank, dude. I have to take a wild guess. Can you give me a clue? Can I get a clue? Am I allowed a clue?
I'll give you one little clue.
Okay.
You might have played this game last year.
Might have played this game last
Or
year.
this year, sorry. Earlier this year. Earlier. That's a big clue.
Earlier this year. Bro, I am struggling. I'm struggling hard.
Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, let's fail it.
Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have played that.
Okay, Clive Rossfield. Clive Rossfield. All right. Let's go ahead with number 4. Still doing good. Baldur's Gate 3 won Game of the Year at this year's Game Awards. Can you tell me which game won Game of the Year in 2022? Just last year. Remember, it's RPG related.
It was Elden Ring.
Correct. One of the greatest games I've played in a long time. I love Elden Ring. Elden Ring was amazing. Did you play it?
I still need to play it.
Oh, it's so good. So freaking good. All right, so now I can turn off the ominous music there and ask you the 5th and final question, which is subjective. What is the game that many gamers out there just love? They seem to love it, but you don't. A game that many love that you don't.
Honestly, I would pick anything from the Final Fantasy series. It's one of those games that kind of just didn't really resonate with me. Right from like 7, I think we'll go with anything from the Final Fantasy series. I'm sorry to disappoint anybody out there.
That disappoints me. I love but here I can understand you. I love Final Fantasy 7. I have a special, I don't know, I have an affinity for that game. I have a love for that game, but most of the Final Fantasy games I don't. It's just that one game. I love the narrative. I love there's just a lot around that game. So I'll let you slide with that because Final Fantasy 16 was a turd, folks. I don't like that game. From my perspective, I have to say that because people out there, it's one of the greatest games and it did. I don't care what people think out there. I personally did not like Final Fantasy 16. And the reason being, I think the combat was terrible. And I also think that the narrative was okay. It was the combat and especially the combat against the bosses. It was all QTEs. I don't want that. It was bad. Anyways, so I didn't even finish that game, man. I didn't care for it. But you did good, man. You did good.
Thanks. I enjoyed that. It was good.
Yeah, you only missed one question there. So yeah, Magnum Westward in the chat says Final Fantasy 16 sucks. Yeah, I agree with you. Many people do not, but I agree with you. Ichiban says 8 and 10 are the best. 7 is the best.
The only question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The only question I actually missed was the one for a series that I've barely played.
Yeah, Final Fantasy. It makes sense now. It makes sense. So for others out there, like my friend Boba Fett Gaming in the chat said, "Oh, these were too easy." Maybe not for somebody who hasn't played some of these games. So, sometimes I may think things are easy or, it's all perspective. It's all what we've played, stuff like that. But anyways, let's get on to our first topic, man. Let's go ahead and talk. Let's have a little fun about this discussion here. The possibility of brand new hardware coming for both Xbox and PlayStation within the next 2 years. Okay. I know there's been a lot of stuff going around on this. Now, what we do know coming from Sony is that there is a PS5 Pro coming. I mean, it's kind of something that they've been trying to hide behind the scenes, but there's been a lot of leakers and rumors surrounding this. So we kind of know they're coming up with a PS5 Pro, and it'll probably be out, I would guess, by 2025. I'm guessing maybe even holiday 2024. I know content creators like D-Batch have put rumored specs out there. And if these leaks, the specs that they're talking about, are true, man, it's not that good. I mean, on the GPU side, it's a boost, but on the CPU side, it's a marginal upgrade. And you know, as well as I know, as well as many others out there know, that a lot of these games that we're getting now, this generation, are very CPU intensive. And if the CPU just has a marginal upgrade from its current state, I don't think we're going to get a lot of 60 frames games with some of these new titles, especially like running Unreal Engine 5. Like, it seems pretty demanding right now. I don't know. What do you think about all this stuff with Sony? Let's start with the Sony side and the PS5 Pro and the possibility of that marginal upgrade.
One of the things that makes me think that we might see a PS5 Pro, and there's a lot of sort of speculation here to sort of cue this one up, but let's talk about GTA 6 and potentially PlayStation having the marketing rights. We don't know where that's going to go yet, but yeah. I've been operating on the assumption that PlayStation might try and leverage that along with a PS5 Pro, and that might be the thing that they're going to sort of hedge their bets on towards the kind of mid to late point of the generation, with a big ticket title like that. I think we really need to see from PlayStation to kind of justify, not necessarily justify a mid-generation console, because I think that justification's there with that kind of that power narrative, like we've talked about. We're not necessarily seeing the performance that we wanted out of this generation yet, and I do use the word yet on purpose. I think it's important to recognize that we will get there. Not having a roadmap for PlayStation is more of a concern for me than what a PS5 Pro will or won't do. And it'll be interesting to see how something like that is marketed. I'm assuming that we're going to see a decent roadmap from PlayStation, by the way. I just don't know when.
When you say a decent roadmap, are you talking about hardware-wise, gaming-wise, or both?
Software-wise, I think we'll see more from their software arm soon, because it is looking quiet right now, and it can't stay quiet forever. I think Sony know that.
That was kind of their MO last generation as well. Don't you remember? They started off pretty slow last gen, and then finally they started getting some games coming. And I think it's much the same this generation. And I say slow, and a lot of people will point to some games out there like The Last of Us 2 and stuff, but those were cross-gen games. Those were games that were delayed. Ragnarok was another one that was delayed. So going into this new generation, this current generation, I mean, it's been 3 years, man. And that's what kind of gets me kind of iffy with this stuff. Like, hearing of new consoles when I feel like the generation had just barely started this year. That's the way it feels for me. I don't know.
I agree with you. Yeah, we were only just starting to see those, quote unquote next gen only titles, and even then, we've seen some of those come with caveats, like Starfield only running at 30, for example. And I think Starfield's a weird one because it's clearly a very demanding game, but the appetite for it to play at 60 on the Xbox Series X is definitely there. And yeah, sure, we'll get that with mods at some point, but I kind of don't really think that should be the answer. I want more power out of the hardware that we already have. And I think actually that offering for a mid-gen upgrade on either side of the fence, it doesn't really matter who's making it, I think is a bit of a frustrating one as a consumer, especially if you've owned one of those consoles since day one, which I have done with the Series X. I bought a PS5 much more recently, bought one about a year ago. But I look at both of my consoles and go, I'd like them to be a bit more powerful, but I also I can't justify spending 600 quid, we can assume, on a Pro model at least. after this console, if the roadmap is 2025, let's say hypothetically 4.5 years into a generation, on paper sounds about right, but actually considering the amount of stagnation that we've seen with obviously like COVID slowed everything down. I think COVID really sort of hampered that pipeline beyond recognition, as it did with pretty much every industry on the planet. It'll be an interesting one to see what happens with the power narrative, first of all, and secondly, what the consumer uptake would be on something like that. We've seen some great offers on the Series X and the PS5 recently, like Black Friday sales and things like that. People who have bought those, are they really going to be enticed by a Pro model, or are they going to be a little bit insulted that their machine that is only 2 years old is really being replaced?
Especially when you see a lot of people had just gotten their PlayStation 5s, like in the past year. I mean, they've had such a, they haven't been available to a lot of people until recently, and
you
so
can get one for about 2 years.
those people will be upset, I'm sure, if something new comes out like that. But history can tell us a lot. If we look back to even last generation and the mid-gen refreshes, they never really they sold, but not as well as I think these companies had hoped. I think they sold to the hardcore audience, but most of the gamers out there stuck with their PS4s or they stuck with their Xbox Ones, and they didn't really move to that series or to the One X or the PS4 Pro. And I think the same will be going on in this situation too, because it's funny. I keep hearing this story from guys like Colt that hung out with like Jason Ronald, my good friend Hargeet Chani that comes on my show sometimes. He's talked about how they had dinner with some Xbox execs, and Jason Ronald was there, and he asked them point blank, guys, when it comes to a pro model of Xbox that might cost, let's say, $800 to $1,000, would you pay that? And some raised their hands, some didn't at the table. He said that's why we wouldn't do that, because most people, they wouldn't pay $800 or even, $700 for a console, with that much power. And that's just the way it is. I think I think that they're not going to really push that to the extent that it's going to cost a lot more money. We're talking $200 more than we're paying now. And with the situation happening now, we see these consoles getting kind of refresh models, or at least the PlayStation did, and they're still at the same price. There's no change, except they took the disc out and said $500 still. I mean, it's crazy what we're seeing. And usually, I mean, and again, this kind of, goes against what I said with history telling us a lot, because even last generation, when they came out with a slim model, it was usually cheaper. This is not the case this time around. And
I think that's really strange. It's a weird move, and it does
very weird.
It breaks convention quite significantly. It's it's expected that a slim model scales the price down. It's sort of that kind of that point in the generation where consoles are typically more available, they're a little bit more affordable, and it's where you see that adoption sort of kind of spike. And I think no doubt we've seen console adoption spike significantly this year, especially on the PlayStation side. It seems to be the main thing that PlayStation fans are bragging about on Twitter at the moment. It's how many consoles are being sold. But yeah, that kind of that price disparity is a bit of a strange one for me.
It's weird. Let's go ahead and talk about the Xbox side of things here. So as for Xbox, we got those internal leaks that were leaked during the FTC trial and everything. And Xbox kind of shot themselves in the foot with that and exposed that they were planning on doing some sort of mid-gen refresh in 2026. However, it wasn't really a power shift. There was nothing really boosted there in terms of power. It was like the form factor change. It went to a cylindrical device, and there was no disk drive. That was it. It was basically the same console. And if PS5 Pro were to put out a Pro model like we all assume, and Xbox just puts out something that doesn't do anything in terms of power, doesn't boost anything there, how do you think people would react to that? Do you think that that would be something that it would upset a lot of gamers, or do you think it would just be like some of the hardcore guys just talking, you know?
I think it depends on the audience. Like, I think, you know, the space that we operate in, the people watching here right now, the people who are, you know, heavily invested, both mentally and literally in this space and the games that they play and the platforms that they play them on, I think that power narrative is going to be a difficult one for people who are close to this stuff. It will be interesting to see what adoption looks like from the mass consumer side when we look at a pro model. And again, you know, what are Sony going to have to offer to be able to make that offering enticing? From Xbox's side, I think, you know, we've heard quite a lot of confident noises from people like Phil Spencer, who have talked about, you know, still the Series X still having plenty of headroom. But, you know, we're already seeing in like Digital Foundry comparisons, for example, whether the PS5 is running more efficiently or it is achieving a better frame rate more consistently. But, you know, we also see the same side with Xbox as well. I think there's a lot of moving parts at play. I can't see our familiars necessarily being okay with that power disparity, which really does sort of make that question about whether or not we might see Xbox jump the gun and go for a new generation early.
I you know what? Let me hold you to that real quick, because Phil Spencer had been on record as saying that those leaks were old. They've changed stuff since then. That's probably not what's going to happen, you know. But just recently, Jeff Grubb, we've had Jeff Grubb out there talking on his show, Game Mess, decided. I think that's the name of his podcast with Mike Minotti. Excuse me. He was talking about how he was talking to some guy who was a leaker of a lot of stuff out there, who leaked some things about the Xbox, the new Xbox. A new Xbox is supposed to come out in 2026. And he's saying, you know, it could be just, you know, kind of what they were, you know, what was released and leaked earlier, or it could be a whole new generation. It could be totally different, completely different, just as you're stating there. You know, I personally think that these lines between generations, because of the mid-gen refreshes, they're kind of blurred now. There's a situation here where, as long as these games can be put out on, you know, the Series X, if they come out with a more powerful console now and it kind of starts this new generation in 2026, I don't think a lot of people would be so upset by that. However, if they try to go forward with something and say, okay, we're going to leave the Series X behind, that's where I think they'll have a problem. So
yes, 100%.
I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think we're going to see that happen. And I've got to give props to Asa from Game On Daily's Go Live, because he is so smart and he is so informed. He said something last night about, and I'm going to try and not misquote him completely, so I'll just paraphrase. I think that Xbox will be able to handle moving up a generation, but still supporting the Series X and S, because of the way they have managed scalability with their software already. We've already seen them do that with the Series X and the Series S. You can play cloud games on your phone, or you can play them on your console. You're obviously also playing on PC, which has a vast variety of specifications that that game software needs to be able to be optimized for. And I think Microsoft is in that interesting position where they can, I think if they pitched a next generation as being something that is more flexible and fluid compared to what we traditionally think of when we talk about game generations. I think that would be how they would be able to square that circle. I don't think they would be able to walk away from the Series X and S completely. I think we're already now seeing that move away from the Xbox One entirely, which should have happened way earlier, in my opinion. I think we should have seen support for the previous platform dropped probably a year before we actually did start seeing titles go, right, this is Series X and S only. Yeah, I think that software scalability is really going to be Microsoft's kind of best weapon here.
I like that you mentioned that, because we are talking about two very different companies. Their approach to this gaming scene is completely different. Especially, I give my hats off to Microsoft, because what they have seemed to do is, I'm going to say it, and a lot of people are going to hate it on that other side, but they've been a bit more pro-consumer than Sony has been, especially as of late. And we could just look to price points for that. We can look to value that we're getting out of Game Pass and compare that in direct comparison with the other side in the PS Plus. You know, what we're getting over there, it's not quite as good. I say, anyways, and that's just my opinion, but that's the way I think a lot of gamers feel out there. And I even see some articles written about that as well. So it's not just, you know, me or just a few guys out there that think that it's really a great value. Game Pass is an amazing value. So it's not just Game Pass, though. It's also the fact that they are everywhere. Now, they are putting their games PC day and date. They'll put it on your TV via Game Pass, you know, whatever device can support Game Pass. Their games are there, and
that's
Sony's not doing that.
What they want to
yeah,
achieve.
And Sony's not doing that.
Yeah, I don't think they're. Like I said before, we do see that big disparity in console sales numbers, and you know we see a lot of kind of performative outrage and console warring over all of that stuff. But I think that's really the fundamental difference between what Microsoft are offering with their gaming platform versus what Sony are offering with theirs. I think Microsoft have gone, we know we're not going to catch up on console sales. That's fine. We're more interested in user numbers. We're more interested in getting people into our ecosystem. We're interested in making that easier. And actually, I have, because this is professional podcasting, I have a quote from Jez's interview that he did with Phil Spencer at the start of December. So Spencer had said that the focus was on how we continue to innovate for people who have made the commitment to our hardware platform and continue to make sure that they feel great about their investment in what we have built. And I think that's really important, because that illustrates their value or their respect for good consumer value, good consumer practices, and we have seen them make pro-consumer move after pro-consumer move. I think Game Pass is literally one of the most pro-consumer things we have ever seen in the game.
I agree, 100%.
Because it makes it so much more affordable and accessible. And again, we see a lot of performative outrage and console warring over this, but I don't like people who kind of pocket watch or judge people for kind of enjoying Game Pass. If I was to buy all of the games that I would play on Game Pass, it would cost me more than my Game Pass subscription has cost me this year.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I'm all right with just paying for Game Pass and enjoying my time there.
Yeah, and it's like when they slam me for saying you're renting games. Okay. And I'm having a great time with those games. I used to rent games all the time.
You do it with Disney Plus. You do it with your music. You rent your music. You don't own any music
you don't
anymore.
own jack. Yeah,
and I remember the good old days when people used to own their music. I was
crazy.
Alive then. You're not now. You don't own anything unless you choose to buy it.
Yeah.
So why should games be any different? And actually, because I haven't bought Starfield at full whack, I've got the funds to go and buy Baldur's Gate when it came out day and date on Xbox.
My man.
And it is fantastic.
I know we can talk about that in a second.
We're going to get into that
first.
later,
First of all, Let me get through these super chats right here. Jax82,
Yeah.
thank you very much for the 5. He says, I don't feel these consoles are being fully utilized. I don't see any different with a Pro model, especially PlayStation or Xbox. Will a Pro fix it? If you're asking, will a Pro fix it? It depends. It depends on how much power they put into it. You got to understand there's going to be that cost there that will be added on to the price of that console. If they try to make it too powerful, you're gonna spend the money for it, unfortunately. And I don't think that's something they'll necessarily do. But I have something to talk about when it comes to Xbox, and I'm gonna get into that in a second. I just want to give a shout out to Ultraman, who sends a $2. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate you for being here, as you are pretty much every week, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. The one thing I wanted to talk about with Xbox, though, and this, possibility of new console. Remember, the leaks also stated that they were gonna start a new generation with a sort of a cloud-based console, or a console that was kind of using the cloud. And I'm wondering what would happen if they actually did that in 2026, and would people really? Because I'm using a service right now. Let me just preface this by saying I'm using GeForce Now, and GeForce Now is basically a PC in the cloud, 4080, really high end PC, really nice stuff, and it works. There is some latency there if you're playing some kind of competition game or something, you're playing COD or something. Well, I don't know why you would do that in the cloud, but I'm sure it's there. I don't feel it. I've played many games on this service. I don't feel it. Again, I have gigabit internet, so that could be a reason why. But I know not everybody can enjoy a cloud-based system, but what if they were to utilize the cloud in a new system in 2 years? Would that rub a lot of people the wrong way?
I think we're moving into a space and an age where that is becoming more and more likely. I think it almost feels like hard drive space feels like a commodity sometimes these days. Like, I've got so many games that I want on my Series X hard drive, and I can't fit them all on, and it's crazy. Like, I keep on having to just delete games that I still want to play, because they are getting bigger and more demanding. So I think, as 5G becomes more prevalent, as super fast fiber optic broadband becomes more widely adopted, and you're talking, hundreds of megabytes as opposed to, 60, 70, 80 megabyte connections, are certainly becoming a lot more common in parts of the UK, but still not everywhere. I think infrastructure is really going to be the biggest challenge that Microsoft would face if they were to go down that route. And I think 2026 would be. I feel like I've done a bit of a U-turn in my own reply to you, by the way. I think 2026 might be too soon for something like that.
I think so too, personally. Yeah. Why? Because basically,
it's getting there.
It is. I think it'll take some time, because even as good as GeForce Now is, you have to have the ultimate package, which is quite expensive. And there's been a couple of times where there's been queue times where I've waited 5 minutes to get in to play a game. So, I mean, you'd have to have servers and things like that. And I know Microsoft has the money to build this kind of infrastructure, but I think it's too soon, in that I think that they've got to streamline the process a bit more before they can actually do this. And I think that it's going to be some years before this is really all fleshed out.
And I think, you can't sort of, it's a lot to expect that every single person that is going to adopt your platform is going to have an internet connection that is stable enough to be able to keep up with that demand. I know, I don't know a huge amount about broadband infrastructure in the States, but I do know that there's a bit of a disparity between, you've got areas that can get great broadband, and you've got areas that can get
gets crap,
bad quality internet. And for Microsoft to be able to cater for every single user, that's a big gamble. if you go for something that is entirely cloud-based. And I think you would actually run a risk of alienating users a lot more with just cloud-based infrastructure. But who knows? I think it's something for the future. I don't think it's something for 2026. I think we might get close to it in 2026. I'm interested to see what, you know, the next iteration of something like GeForce Now looks like. I think we've seen PlayStation sort of move into cloud gaming a little bit. So am I right in thinking that their premium PS Plus service now offers it's 4K 60 streaming, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not.
I might be wrong on that. Chat.
So.
If anyone knows like the details on that, so that we're not just spouting nonsense on the internet, pipe up. But
yeah, exactly. We know you're not saying for sure, but you're guessing. It might be that good, but I'm not sure. I just know that this cloud tech. Microsoft's very interested in it, and I could see them doing something with it in the future with some sort of console or box, if you will, in your home. But yeah, 2026 might be a little bit too soon, but I wouldn't put it past them to put something out by then, though, a separate device maybe for those that are interested. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, but again, you really don't need a box because GeForce is on your TVs. It's on your computer. It's like, it's an app pretty much, and it's different. So,
and we've also seen Microsoft make those moves in quite a big way as well. Like, their app built into Samsung TVs now is a great example of how they're trying to make that onboarding ramp more accessible for people and get more eyeballs on Game Pass as a service and more opportunities to get in there. Yes, a piece of dedicated hardware that could handle high-end gaming via a high-speed internet connection is going to give you a better performance in terms of latency and experience. But yeah, I think that justification for hardware, if cloud-based gaming is the future, I think it's a difficult game, isn't it?
Yeah, it totally is. Let's go ahead and move on from that and talk about Arkane Lyon making the Blade game for Xbox, by the way, which will most likely be exclusive, guys. I think we can bet on that. I think so. It doesn't matter to me at the end of the day. It really doesn't. I just want a good Blade game. I've been asking for one since 2018. We're getting one, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, so Arkane, they've got a lot of PlayStation fans upset and posting about their game everywhere. Like the socials are funny with some of these guys because, I mean, you can't even put out conceptual art without some of these guys getting their panties in a twist. It's crazy to me. So I don't know if you've seen some of the artwork did you see the concept art that they posted?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put that on the screen now, but they looked at this concept art, and of course, it is what it is. It's conceptual art. They took it and they started comparing PlayStation games to it, started comparing The Last of Us 2, Factions 2. I mean, they compared.
Where did that go wrong?
Concept art with Factions 2, people. Canceled a day later. Like, you couldn't have predicted. You couldn't have. It was just hilarious how that happened. It's like one day they're all giving us the rub on this Blade concept art and talking about Faction 2, and the next day it's canceled. It's like, what?
I love how that's basically come straight off the back of the thing that we talked about a couple of weeks ago when we were on Go Live with all the PlayStation guys saying, oh, Xbox is definitely going third party, and then Jez Corden's interview with Phil Spencer very quickly cut that narrative off, and we're seeing it all over again. It's very strange behavior, very, very strange.
It is, and I think it looks pretty cool. I think it looks good. I think it looks pretty cool.
It's nice. It's got like a bit of a graphic
Now,
graphic novel kind of vibe to it. And yes, it's concept art. But actually, I also really like the art style that we've seen glimpses of in the trailer as well. That kind of got a really interesting use of lighting and textures, even down to the way skin has been designed and hair texture. It's concept art, it's reveal trailer, it's very, very early footage that doesn't necessarily represent anything close to what the final product might be, but to give that initial kind of flavor and impression and expectation, so far no complaints. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I tend to like the more realistic looking games myself. But
yeah, same.
I can play a game that has a certain art style if it's good. The bottom line, the game has to be fun. That's it. Yep. But here's two things that I need with Blade. I not only need it to be fun, but I need it to be very graphic. And we're getting a mature game here. They've already labeled this as an M mature game. So I think we are going to get that graphic Blade game that we've all wanted as Blade fans. So I think we're going to get that here. And
I think so.
I think it's going to be something to where some of these Sony guys on that side, man, these poor souls, man, these poor souls. I think it's going to be something to where they're going to turn around and say, wow, I really want to play that game because, it's going to be a great Marvel game. And what's up with all this talk about I've seen some things, again, on Twitter and the socials talking about how only Marvel games or only PlayStation should get Marvel games. Like some guys were saying that, and it's like, what do you?
It's just gatekeeping.
The exclusivity, the gatekeeping. It's so weird. It's so weird. I will never understand like true like blue fanboyism when it comes to the gaming space. In anything really. I'm not one of those hardcore guys. Like I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan, okay, for football, but I do not like, I don't hate other teams. Like I don't despise other teams. I'm not that, I don't know. It's just different for me. And I know there's tribalism and the people are all into, different things, fanatics for different things, Android or iPhone and all that sort of stuff. And I get it. But at the end of the day, I just myself, I can never really truly like feel a part of that. Like, rah, my plastic is better than yours. Like, because at the end of the day, I'm looking at it and I'm like, it's about the game. Like, it's about the games. And I want some good games. I don't care where it's at. If it's a good game, I'm going to that platform. That's it. That's how I've always felt. So. It's just
100%. And I wasn't a sort of Xbox is the only way to go kind of guy, but for a long time it was the only platform that I could afford to be on. I
that makes sense.
Couldn't afford to buy both platforms.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I'm in a position now where I have been able to, and I've really enjoyed myself. And the last thing I'd want to do is go, this console isn't for you. Because who the hell am I to say something like that? Or these IPs can only be on this box because reasons. It's a ridiculous take, and I don't think it's the spirit of what a gamer should be. I think especially if you grew up in like the 80s, the 90s, maybe even the early noughties. If you were a gamer, you were usually, more often than not, considered a weird kid. I think it's different now, and I'm glad.
Oh, the stigma is very different now. Yeah, it's different.
It is, and that's good. But I like inclusion. I'm very, very pro inclusion. Everyone can enjoy anything, anywhere, and that should be how we live our lives. I don't want to keep anybody.
And don't get me wrong, because I see people in the chat now talking about it. And it's like, if you don't like certain games that are exclusive to, say, Sony, if you don't care for those games, I totally get you not wanting a PlayStation. That makes total sense. And vice versa. Cool. I get it. But, you just want to play those multi-plats, or you like the type of games that Xbox makes, or vice versa. That's great. It's It's what it's about. This hobby is very
If you
selfish.
prefer story-driven experiences,
Yeah.
why would you pick up Halo? It's just, I mean,
well, there is some good
example,
narrative there in Halo.
Halo is a great story-driven game. But okay, let's pick. I mean, even no, it's a very bad example. Ignore that. Scratch that from the tape.
No, but Sony does have a lot of narrative-driven games, and their games, as much as I love them, they are very movie-esque. I will admit that. Like the cinematics, the CGI, everything they do, they cater to that audience that really likes a compelling story on your screen. You might not necessarily play it all the time. Like they'll take the control away from you a lot so they can show you some of those cinematics. And I don't mind that, but I can understand where a lot of people don't like that. And I totally
100%.
get it. So
100%.
Yeah, totally get that.
I've said before, I came very, very late to the PlayStation ecosystem, and I was able to sort of play quite a lot of those narrative-driven single-player experiences in quite a condensed sitting, and I really enjoyed it. But actually, I prefer multiplayer shooters, which, to be fair, is something that Xbox has already done really well, or where a lot of multiplayer-centric gamers tend to flock. I think there's also, the fact that a lot of my friends have always been on Xbox, for example. Most of the stuff that I own is already on Xbox, so it becomes more difficult to, step away from an ecosystem. It's more like you're going to add one into your home. And again, I think that's something that Phil Spencer had touched on in an interview when he's gone, we're not expecting Starfield to drive everybody to sell their PlayStations and go and buy Xboxes instead. That's just not going to happen because people are too embedded in their ecosystems. It doesn't mean that one's right and one's wrong. You play where you own stuff, you play where you like playing, you play where the games that you like are, and that's really how you should be living your life. Not shouting at each other on Twitter because you think your box is better.
I know.
I don't know.
It's weird. And I understand, I've laughed at some of it. Don't get me wrong. Some of the console warring, there's some hilarious stuff people throw back and forth. I can laugh at a good meme or whatever. Some things are really funny, but some of those guys, though, they take it way too serious and they'll start getting personal and that kind of stuff. I don't jive with that. I stay away from it.
No, I'm the same. I'm the same. And actually, when someone gets personal with me, that's kind of when I stop taking their contribution seriously. I'm just like, no,
it's time to block.
I'm not entertaining it. I'm too old and too tired.
Facts. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this other piece of news we got this week. Naughty Dog has announced that The Last of Us 2 Factions 2, or what they called The Last of Us Online, has been scrapped. So apparently it's been scrapped in favor of concentrating on their single player games, folks. And they had this to say. They said, "We realize many of you have been anticipating news around the project that we've been calling The Last of Us Online. There's no easy way to put this. We've made the incredible, difficult decision to stop development on that game. We know this news will be tough for many, especially our dedicated Last of Us Factions community, who have been following our multiplayer ambitions ardently. We're equally crushed at the studio as we are looking forward to putting it in your hands, as we were looking forward to." They were looking forward to that, guys. Not anymore. "We wanted to share with you some background of how we came to this decision," they said. "The multiplayer team has been in pre-production with this game since we were working on The Last of Us Part 2, crafting an experience we felt was unique and had tremendous potential. As the multiplayer team iterated on their concept for The Last of Us Online during this time, their vision crystallized, the gameplay got more refined and satisfying, and we were enthusiastic about the direction in which we were headed. In ramping up to full production, the massive scope of our ambition became clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put all our studios behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. So we had two paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio, or continue to focus on single-player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. We are immensely proud of everyone at the studio that touched this project. The learnings and investments in technology from the game will carry over into how we develop our projects and will be invaluable in the direction we are headed as a studio. We have more than one ambitious brand, new single game that we're working on here at Naughty Dog. We cannot wait to share more about. Basically, so they canceled this game. They canceled the online game. And by the way, I think I've read more there than any of the PlayStation guys have in quite some time when it comes to articles, because it seems like many of them do not read past the headlines. But yeah, you
as
can
our good
see,
friend Gaz would say, sauce.
Sauce. I'm just saying what I see. I'm speaking my truth. But a lot of people just look at a headline and run with it, or they hear, oh, it's canceled. They don't know why, but they'll just run with some stupid narrative. And all they had to do was read it. So basically, they're stopping the production of that game so they can focus on their single player games, which I personally say that's fine. That's fine, because I'd rather them work on their single player games. I think that they're better at doing that anyway. However, where they say that, they couldn't do this, I don't believe. I don't believe that they couldn't, have supported this game, because they did it last generation. They supported factions. They had that going while they were making The Last of Us 2. I don't see where they couldn't do it. I don't know if this is something. What do you think about that?
So first of all, I have a question about factions, because as you probably have figured out, I never
played a little bit of it, tiny bit of it, not much, because I'm not a multiplayer guy. So
did it have that live service element to it? Did it have any form of monetization or battle pass or anything like that, or was that sort of before?
I can't even remember. Yeah, I can't even remember.
I'm going to assume that it was a no, based on how we now see games like Fortnite or Call of Duty or even Halo Infinite operate. I'm really sad about this, by the way. I was very, very excited for factions, and it was genuinely something that I was really looking forward to.
I'm sorry. Scorpio just said in the chat, a very nurtured. What did he say? I got to scroll up. A very nurtured and organic cancellation. Go ahead. Yeah, it's very organic, that cancellation.
Well yeah, I am sad about this. Factions is genuinely something that I was looking forward to. I think the thing I really wanted to come out of this was effectively the Division with zombies. I quite liked the Division. There are a lot of things that I would have changed about it, but I was really interested to see what Naughty Dog could do with the world that they have built with The Last of Us, the quality of product that they are able to deliver with a game like
the gameplay was fun.
The way they do, yeah, I really like The Last of Us, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time playing both games. I know it's going to upset some people, but
no, I enjoyed playing part 2 as well. I just didn't like the story at all. I thought it was shit, complete shit. But the gameplay was top. It was top notch. It was good, really good.
It was really good. I think that The Last of Us did a really good way of kind of, because there was a lot of like, I call it frantic looting, actually, because there were points in that game where if you're especially on a harder difficulty, if you're desperate for the stuff that you need to create a med kit, or you've got like 4 bullets left and you find 2 in the room that you're in, that stuff gets stressful quick, and it adds to the urgency of the overall experience. I thought like that in a co-op environment would be really intense. You've got to have a lot of communication. You've got to be able to, maybe you're sharing resources. I think having some sort of co-op, like a co-op experience where, you and your party are part of the narrative, and maybe that is told over, you know, a seasonal iteration. And obviously this is all hypothetical because we now know that this isn't going to come to fruition, but it was genuinely something that I was so excited about. I was really looking forward to it. So it is a shame to
on
see
that front. I would have to say that, you know, that's what I really look forward to State of Decay 3 for with Xbox is that I want a really good, not only just zombie game, but also like a factions type game where you basically can have a team fighting other real people, other real teams out there, you know, and you can go into their bases and stuff, kill them, steal stuff, take it to your base, things like that. And also have that element outside of just these people. You have the zombies too that are coming after you at the same time. I think that could be a really unique experience online. And I think 100%. That State of Decay 3 could do that. And I hope they do that.
I hope so. I'd like an experience like this, but I think, you know, even it should be a bit of a wake-up call and a bit of an eye-opener to acknowledge that even a studio with you know, Naughty Dog's pedigree being able to sort of, you know, they've clearly looked at it and they've gone, okay, reality is going to bite here if we're not careful. Because I think the most important part of what you've written down here, let me find my note, professional podcasting.
Oh, that's fine.
Where is it? Where's the note? We would have to put all of our studio resources, and I put a lot of emphasis on the word all. You're going to have to put all of your studio resources into supporting post-launch content for years to come. And if that adoption isn't there, or if people aren't willing to spend the money there because they are too busy spending their money in places where they have already spent their money, like Fortnite, like Call of Duty, like Apex, just 3 names off the bat without really trying to think of how many others there are out there, how many other battle passes you're, you know, essentially asked to invest in. There comes a point where that space will start to feel saturated, and it's such a big gamble.
Yeah, of course.
And it's a shame.
You're not going to find.
It is a shame, but it's reality. And we nearly saw this go badly wrong for 343. It was very touch and go after those first few months because we saw the player numbers drop off a cliff. And, you know, even now, we saw Paris Lily interview Sketch from 343 a few weeks ago, where they talked about, you know, the monetization and the fact that a lot of players on Halo Infinite have been quite vocal about how they don't really like the prices that are in the store or how things are being monetized. And Sketch has just gone, you know what, I'm really grateful for your feedback, but honestly, and he thanked Paris for acknowledging this because he said it up front in his question, because it would be really disingenuous. Like Sketch literally said, it would be disingenuous if you didn't acknowledge this. The game needs funding. It has to be funded. And when you have a player base that is dropping, you're going to have to start bumping the prices up to make up for the fact that your player numbers are going down. And that dangerous, precarious balance is going to be subject to cost-benefit analysis. And clearly, someone at Naughty Dog, or likely higher up, and I know we've heard rumors that it could have been Bungie that went, we don't think it's going to work.
Yeah. Well, you know, everybody's trying to find that. They're trying to chase that Fortnite dream, man. They're trying to find their own Fortnite or even an Apex or something like that has longevity and makes a whole hell of a lot of money. That's the number one focus. And that's very hard to do in that space. But I think this has a lot to do with Jim Ryan and his road to 60% of their games being CAS. Yeah. I think that's one thing that has driven a lot of developers out of Sony. Not by their own accord, some getting fired even. I think maybe there's been a bit of backlash for that internally, and we probably will never hear of it, but I'm sure there's been a lot of people that are like, hey, we don't want to do this. And Naughty Dog might be one of those developers that are just like, hey, we really don't want to push too much of this. You know, we don't want to really turn this into a gas thing where we have to make it, you know, long, you know, last, sustain for years to come. Like, we don't want to put that much effort into it. Maybe that's what they were saying. And I get
Honestly,
that.
if that's the case, good for them.
Yeah,
Good for
that's what
them,
I say.
because as a set of creatives, they should be able to go, look,
Hmm.
this is, first of all, this is the stuff we're good at. This is the stuff we know makes money for Sony. And I think, they have
But
to be
therein
really
lies,
honest with themselves and sort of
yeah.
go, look, if we balls that multiplayer section up, not only is that going to cost you guys a hell of a lot of money, but we're not going to make the return on investment to mitigate the damage that that's going to cost. It's going to end up affecting staff. Staff retention further down the line as well, because if let's say they pushed forward and Jim Ryan went, no, we're sticking with this Naughty Dog whether you like it or not, and we get a year into that release and Naughty Dog go, yeah, this is not working out, people are going to be pissed and heads are going to roll.
Yeah,
So in a way, good Naughty Dog for going, nope, we are going to stick with the thing that we're good at. It's just a shame that it had to happen like
but I
this.
think everything happening right now. Okay, so if you look at what Sony is doing this generation, this is the type of person I am. I'm looking at the whole spread of everything they've done. They've been upping the prices on their hardware. They initially upped the price on the games before this generation started, really, at the very beginning.
Yep. They set that bar.
And then they decided that they were going to push the 60% of their business is going to be gas. The reason why I'm saying this stuff is, do you think that Sony, they know that possibly just creating their exclusive single-player games just isn't sustainable anymore? With the high cost of the production and all this stuff, that they need to do other things. And they are so, what's the word? It's like they're too prideful to put their games day and date on PC or their own service, even, because they think that they're above that. And I think that just doing what they're doing now with just their single-player games being exclusive to their box, I personally don't see it being as sustainable as a lot of people might think.
I think I agree with you. And actually, there's an interesting point. I can't remember who made it. I think quite a few people might have done over the last few days. I know, I'm pretty sure King said it again on Go Live yesterday, actually. If we've seen 50 million PS5s sold, why haven't we seen 50 million copies of Spider-Man sold? Why haven't we seen 50 million copies of Ragnarok sold?
We know it doesn't work quite like that. Like, you don't have the adoption rate that, the attachment rate. You don't, not everybody's into Spider-Man, or not everybody's into even Madden or whatever. But
if people really were genuinely buying for the first party titles, and that was why people specifically were picking PlayStation over Xbox, then yes, I think that model or that kind of,
well, we know that's all bullshit. We knew that was bullshit with the PlayStation 4. We know why they were picking the PlayStation 4 is because the Xbox One X was basically ostracized. It was people just threw that to the wayside because of their initial announcement. It was horrible, and people were like, "I'm not going to Xbox this time around." They went to PlayStation, and this is another thing that a lot of PlayStation fans don't want to agree with, because they use this against Xbox guys for saying all the time, but it's the fucking truth. Xbox guys, a lot of them go to Xbox because their friends are there and they like the ecosystem, period. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong 100%. With that.
The ecosystem's great, man. The Xbox ecosystem is fantastic. And I think, if you've missed out on that, seriously, if you have only been on PlayStation for X amount of years, and
it's so different. It's completely different.
Honestly, you should dip your toe into the other ecosystem, because you don't necessarily need the hardware anymore. I'd always recommend the hardware, don't get me wrong, but I am amazed at how I can play and where I can play. I played Party Animals at the Barbers waiting to get my haircut the other week, like on my phone. You can't do that with a Portal because you can't play it. I think actually, I don't know if anyone went definitive on this, but I understand that it's difficult to play outside of the house. on a portal if possible.
For some, I mean, some people
with
have
a backbone.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the thing. Chances are there is something already in your pocket that can play remotely. And again, if you have something like a backbone adapter or I think a Razer Kishi or something like that, that experience is great. Like seriously, it's nuts where you can play games on the Xbox platform. Not just its hardware. When I talk about platform, I do mean the wider ecosystem. And that is something that I do want to see more from PlayStation. Like I do think that having more players, if they took that same mentality that we've heard Phil Spencer say, when everyone plays when I actually think we'd see happier ecosystems on both sides, because we wouldn't have this kind of, yes, you'll still get exclusivity, because I think exclusivity is important for moving units. We saw that with Starfield and Game Pass, for example. We saw Xbox sales and Game Pass adoption jump up when Starfield came out, and that is the power of what an exclusive does. The narrative that you were talking about is a really interesting one, whether or not Sony can afford to keep hedging its bets on its single player narrative experiences.
I think that's why they're really pushing the prices for things. I think they're really doing that because and why they wanted to push for gas games. 60% of those, they want to find their diamond in the rough. They want to find that Fortnite. They want to make more money, because they know that just doing things the way they're doing, can they make money? Sure. But we all know these corporations are greedy and they want to make a lot more money. And I don't think they can do it without doing something like that, without doing all this stuff they're doing. It's a shame, though, that they're pushing prices on stuff like their hardware, especially like with their Slim model. I think that was the most egregious thing. It's so stupid, because they're actually cutting costs in a lot of areas, but they're still passing on to the consumer a high price point. And it's like, at this point in the game, 3 years into the life cycle, we should see a reduction, and we're not seeing that. And inflation be damned. I don't care about that. That at the end of the day, they're still trying to make more money on this console than the previous one that they were already making money on today. It's egregious. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is. And again, I think, that expectation of a Slim model being cheaper, to see that not come to fruition was strange. It was really, really strange. I remember, everybody on Twitter was really taken aback by like this price point of the Slim model being not so dissimilar from what the full fat model is. It's a strange move.
So weird.
I really want to see them be more consumer friendly. I do. Like I've been really vocal about wanting to see their first party titles come to PS Plus day and date.
Again, it's not just.
I think it's inevitable. I think it will happen at some point. It's just a case of when, and I think it is a matter of pride, like you've indicated.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. And it's that fear of not moving, their own PlayStation. They're not moving units, so they're like, if we put our games day and date on the PC, we're going to move less units, because a lot of PC gamers, they might buy a PlayStation 5 just to play those exclusive games that they can't play for a year or two or whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, it's dumb. I think they should go day and date personally. I don't know how much they're making per console, but it can't be that much. It can't be as much as their games making day and date on PC, or their games in their subscription service, and they sell their subscription service. They get more. They get millions more coming into their service. Like I would subscribe to their service if they put their games in day and date. I would subscribe.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yeah, I would.
Well, actually, not this year, because there's nothing coming first party. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, and that's another thing too. They just don't have that many studios to continuously pump out first party games. That's why we're always seeing a lot of third party exclusives. We're seeing that they're buying into those because they just don't have the studios for it to continuously pump out those games.
I think I think we are seeing sort of the early signs of a rough patch with PlayStation. I think you might see a lot of fanboys that are sort of in denial about that. But we as an Xbox guy, I've been there when we've not seen a roadmap. I've been there when we've seen a couple games come out that should have hit and didn't. Redfall being one of the most egregious examples.
Such a turd. I can't stand Redfall. I tried it.
These things happen.
Terrible.
Yeah, I did. These things happen. People get misses, but I think we're seeing some difficult and challenging U-turns from PlayStation's side, and at the same time we're seeing big moves, very big, record-breaking big moves from Xbox when we talk about the ABK acquisition, for example. I want to see big moves from Sony, because a lot of people in this space say competition is good. If Sony is doing well, it puts pressure on Xbox. If Xbox is doing well, it will put pressure on PlayStation. I think PlayStation internally are probably feeling that pressure quite significantly, and have done since Xbox made that move to acquire ABK. We saw that with quite a lot of the erratic and strange behavior. PlayStation, quotes from Jim Ryan.
Sony doesn't have the capital for that. For something that massive. I know a lot of people are pushing and pumping them up, saying, they should get some sort of marketing rights for GTA 6. I even think that is out of their budget, man. Anything to do exclusively anyway. If they had some sort of marketing deal where it's just purely marketing for the PlayStation 5, I don't think that's much of a big deal at all. And they'd still have to pay hand over fist for it.
That late in the generation as well. So we're talking 2025.
Yeah, 2025.
Assuming it can hit that window, which I do think it will. That's quite late in a generation to expect people to start adopting PS5 consoles, pro or otherwise, en masse to play GTA. And obviously, it's not going to be an exclusive, because we know that it's coming to Xbox as well. But obviously, we don't know what their marketing looks like. And I think we shouldn't underestimate the power of marketing deals that consoles have.
It's still huge. It's still huge
for Hogwarts Legacy for sure. And actually, you heard. I remember hearing Randall Thor on Xbox 2 talk about how his I think his sister didn't realize that Hogwarts Legacy was on any other console. My sister actually messaged me going, wow, I really want a PS5 for Hogwarts Legacy. And I've gone, it's on Xbox too, right? But that,
didn't know that
brand power and that marketing power is really, really important, and does make a substantial difference to how the wider audience will perceive where software is available. Because those logos carry a lot of weight.
It's good you said that, because a lot of us, especially in this scene, in this community, this particular community where people are coming to podcasts like this, we're more of the hardcore people. So we see it through those lenses sometimes, and we say, they can have the marketing rights, but the casual market doesn't come around to these podcasts. They don't listen. 100%. They don't really look for anything like that. So if they see PlayStation 5 attached to GTA 6, they're going, man, I got to get a PlayStation 5. That's what a lot of the casual market will do. For us, we don't. We're like, who cares? We got.
And it does work. It is a powerful tool, and I work in marketing. I've seen how the sausage is made. It's it has a big impact. But like I said, later into a generation, when we're seeing GTA 6 come out, especially all of the awareness around GTA 6 right now, people already know that they're going to need a console that isn't an Xbox One or a PS4 to be able to play that game. That's pretty obvious, considering how long these consoles have been out for. So by GTA 6's release come 2025, is a marketing push with Sony specifically going to shift units in the same way as it would with Hogwarts Legacy, for example, where the generation is, at the time, the generation was 2 years old, because Hogwarts Legacy came out start of 2023, didn't it? It was February of this year.
Yeah.
So, those consoles are, 2 and a bit years old at this point. Will it have that same impact when GTA 6 comes out? I'm not sure. And to be fair, that might be where...
Well, honestly, you have to understand too. Go ahead. Oh, with the PlayStation. Okay,
no,
so you have to understand too that since they don't put the game on PC, the only platforms GTA 6 are on are the current platforms. So that makes a huge difference. People still are going to be so excited. It's GTA 6. I've got to get either an Xbox or a PlayStation, and the current PlayStation that it's out at that time, it could be the Pro model. Who knows? They could be pushing that with GTA 6.
Which does make me think that we'll end up seeing PlayStation grab the marketing deal for that. Because I think if they can tie that in with a PS5 Pro, I think that is the thing that will end up shifting units.
Yeah.
Because that message of the best place to play GTA 6 is on a PS5 Pro. This is all operating under the assumption that PlayStation is going to get that marketing deal. But if it does happen, I can see that playing out.
And I will not be buying a PlayStation Pro, folks. I know I've been asked last week about that. I'm not buying a Pro model of any console. I'm done. Like these, I like my Series X. I like my PlayStation 5. And but I'm going to build a computer, and I'm just going to start PC gaming. I'm going to start building one, man. So by the time GTA is out on PC, I will have a computer by then. But I will be playing GTA 6 on my Series X no matter what, because I'm not buying another console, and it's not coming out on PC. So I will be playing it day one. Mark my word, I will be playing GTA 6 day one. But yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited, man.
Yeah. I'm with you on wanting to build a PC, man. And I think I'm kind of sick of having expectations and then not being met with a console. Whenever I go, okay, this is going to be more powerful. This is going to be able to deliver 60 FPS gameplay. This is going to be able to deliver ray tracing executed well. And the reality is, it's not all there. It's not all there on either console. It doesn't matter which platform. And there is that reminder of, you pay 500 quid for a box, it's going to give you 500 quid worth of game quality.
That's what we have to reiterate, though. For 500 bucks,
you're going to
be
fucking mind blown.
Yeah. No, it's
for 500
definitely
quid.
Great.
It's fantastic. It's 500 really quid.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big difference. If you want to play something that's like 1440p, and you're looking at you're looking at 100 frames per second, well over 60, you're going to be spending at least $1,500, like at least, like bare minimum, with these high end games anyway. And that's building it yourself most likely. But it's the price difference is huge, and that's, again, it goes back to the thing I was talking about earlier with Jason Ronald telling the people at the table there during that dinner with some guys, content creators like Colt and Hargeet out there, telling them nobody would really buy an $800 console except for like the really hardcore. So it doesn't make sense to them to sell something like that.
And the vast majority of guys at that table, if not all of them, will have had gaming PCs at home.
And they do. They have gaming PCs.
They're just looking for a more conveniently packaged, powerful console. And as desirable as that is to people like us, I can't see the casuals who only buy Call of Duty every year adopting an $800 console en masse. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of money to ask for somebody who only plays 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
At which point you might as well look at PC.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like I said, $500 for these consoles, really good stuff. I mean, I'm playing Baldur's Gate right now on this Series X recently. Also playing it on GeForce Now, and of course that's got a 4080. It's the ultimate package. I've got like all the bells and whistles on, and it looks incredible on GeForce Now compared to the Xbox version. But the Xbox version's not bad, and the performance mode is fine, and I don't find it too far off when it comes to performance anyway from what I'm playing on GeForce Now. I think they did a really solid job at Larian with the version on the console, with the Xbox at least. I don't have The PlayStation version, I never bought into it, but I bought it with the Xbox. And a lot of people were asking me, why'd you buy it if you're already playing it on GeForce Now? Because I love the game that much. I freaking love this game, and I think they deserve this.
GeForce Now, you know.
Yeah,
I kind of just assumed you were playing it on PS5 and then bought it.
No. I was playing on GeForce Now for a while, and then I decided to buy the Xbox version and start a third playthrough there because I have 2 going on GeForce Now, and I'm playing all these like just at once. And the Xbox version, I got my Dark Urge playthrough. And it's incredibly different from my other 2 playthroughs. My other 2 playthroughs are kind of similar. I'm doing some different things, but I'm still like a goody 2 shoes. But on the Xbox version, man, I'm just cutthroat. It's crazy. Let me get through these super chats real quick. Jax82, thank you very much for the $5. I appreciate you. He says, I don't feel these consoles. Oh no, we got that one. There was another one. King Layton, thank you very much for the $2.79. He says, Fonz, can you say anything about RDX coming back soon? I don't know when, but the dealer's telling me that it'll be soon. I don't know when. I can't say to that, man. I'm sorry. Mike with the $5 super chat says, Naughty Dog gets praised for canceling an entire game. Meanwhile, 343 got crucified for dropping co-op to focus on multiplayer. Xbox tax is real. No, I don't know if anybody's really praising them, because at the end of the day, even though if we are sitting here saying if it's something like they wanted to be, or they were pushed into making a gas game that they didn't want to make, fine, that's great, they can do that. But the overall look of it, it's still an L at the end of the day. It's a massive L, because they've been telling their fans to wait on that game for how long now? And they just said it just a few months ago. We can't wait to show you more and stuff. And then now they cancel it. It's a fat L.
There is going to have been a lot of time and money that's been put into that, and it is gone. They're not going to be able to recoup it. And that is a shame. And it should be chalked up as an L. It's unfortunate. And again, like I said, I'm glad that Naughty Dog is gone. You know what? We're going to stick with the thing that we're really good at. But I also maintain, hey, I really wanted this. I did. Yeah. I really, really wanted it.
Oh, no, they screwed up with this situation. It's a big L at the end of the day. It is, because they've been putting this on for years now. They've been creating this behind the scenes for many years. So there's a lot of stuff there. They can say, oh, we're going to take some of this and use it in future games. They've lost a lot of money there. They've lost a lot by doing that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so Baldur's Gate, man, you've been playing that lately, and
so I've been really fortunate here in that I've got a group of close friends who have dragged me. I can't even say kicking and screaming, because I did go happily, but I started playing D&D with them, and this was about 2 weeks before I picked up Baldur's Gate, maybe a little bit longer than that. And mentally, that really helped me prepare for this game. So if you have thought about playing D&D, and you're interested in that, I'd recommend checking it out. If you've got a group of friends, an interesting campaign, and you enjoy a bit of role playing, a bit of improv, because I think that's a big part of it as well. Actually, just getting quite creative and playful with improv. D&D is a lot of fun. And I'm very, very new to that. Going back to Baldur's Gate, I'm so pleasantly surprised by Baldur's Gate. I can't believe how much I love it. Actually, one of the guys that I was playing D&D with earlier today, he saw me online at 20 to 1 in the morning and messaged me saying, dude, get off Baldur's Gate 3, it's really late. And I was like, no, I can't, man. I'm dealing with the hag, which if you've played Act 1, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I can't put it down. I think it's fantastic. I know when we were talking on Go Live, I talked about wanting a game that didn't have a lot of hand-holding in it, and you went, you're not going to be disappointed with Baldur's Gate 3 if you don't want your handheld. Bro, can I have a little bit of hand-holding? Because this is the other end of the spectrum.
Here's the thing. There's going to be a lot of times where you're going to go into rooms and there'll be books and stuff, and there'll be some kind of puzzle to do, and pick up the books. That's my advice. Like, read them, and they will help you with some of these things. because there is a lot of reading sometimes that you'd have to do to figure things out.
There is.
But this version that I'm playing on the screen right now is from the Series X. This is the one I've mainly been playing the last week, and I've been having a blast with it. So again, Series X version is great. If you guys have not bought into it yet, man, the hype is real. It's game of the year for a reason. So far, it's game of the generation, in my opinion. It's just incredible.
It is also top of the sales charts at the moment on Xbox, which is interesting because I heard that Xbox players don't buy games.
Yeah, they don't buy games.
What about that?
Yeah.
And
here's the thing too. Here's something else. A lot of my friends that bought this game, they're actually playing this game. Not like some of the PlayStation guys that bought the game and didn't even bother really playing the game. Of course,
we are going to have to take a quick L though, Fonz. A very, very quick one, because both you and I were very vocal about half expecting Baldur's Gate 3 to come to Game Pass and have that announcement.
I know.
Not only did that announcement not come, but Larian went definitive on it and went, yeah, we're not doing that. So we're going to have to hold our hands up and go, yeah, we were really wrong about that. And I made a YouTube video about it. So
I know, man. I know. I'm taking an L there. I thought they would do it. I thought Phil Spencer would hand him that big bag for it. But again, it's great for Larian, and I happily bought it on the Series X. Again, I'm playing it on GeForce. I had no reason to buy it there, but I said, look, they deserve it. It's a great game. I'll pay the money. Gave them, my money for this game, and I'm playing it there. It's freaking incredible, man. And again, you know what blows my mind?
That ownership as well. It's not like you're literally paying for it twice, because I'm guessing was it included as part of your GeForce Now subscription? Did you have to pay anything up for that?
No. You had to buy it on Steam. You have to buy it on Steam.
Gotcha.
Now, it is cheaper on Steam by $10. I still don't get the whole Steam is cheaper than freaking digital over on Xbox. Makes no sense to me why consoles get this tax. Consoles get taxed that Steam doesn't. But no, I definitely didn't mind spending on the game because I freaking love it. I've literally just all this free time that I get, which isn't much these days, but I spend it playing this game. Like, I'm just like constantly jumping onto the controller and playing this game. But yeah, and playing this certain, like the same things all the time. Like, you go through the same missions and stuff. Because I have 3 playthroughs going, I can definitively say I have never played a game with this many options. Any RPG out there, I've never had so many different options and so many different turnouts in these games. Like, I'm doing massive, like, the differences in my playthroughs are so massive that it changes the freaking world that you're in this game. It's freaking crazy. And it changes the dynamic of your companions and your squad. They get pissed off. Some of them will leave. And it's incredible. It's freaking incredible.
That happened with me.
Had one leave.
There was a companion that kept on asking me to give him free stuff, and I decided that I didn't want to give him free stuff. And he went, "All right, screw you then," and he just bailed.
That was Gale. He always wants those magic items, and I'm like, I want the magic items, so no. And he finally said, "F you, I'm out.
I'm not finding enough of these magic items, and if I find them, I'm keeping them, and I'm gonna split them between the party that I'm running," which he was not a part of. Maybe he felt jealous.
I won't spoil anything, but I ended up killing 2 of my own companions in this Dark Urge playthrough. Killed them both. You could do that.
I'm looking forward to running a Dark Urge playthrough. I'm still in Act 1.
It's freaking crazy, dude. It's freaking crazy. I just murked them both. I was like, can't stand you. Done. And yeah, my other party members don't like it, but they're gonna have to deal, or they can be gone too. But yeah, that's how I'm playing the Dark Urge thing.
I think it's a really good story. It's kept me engaged from the off, and I think it's crazy how many different options you have to achieve a goal. I can't remember who the creator was, but I remember there was this video that went viral either back end of last week or early this week that showed like all the different ways that people had tried doing or tackling the the Goblin Stronghold in Act 1. And that was one mission, and I'm sure there were even more options to choose from. And I remember I reviewed Starfield, and it was a video that I was really proud of, by the way. So I'd strongly recommend
Really good.
checking it out on my channel after this. I remember talking about how there was a lack of choice and consequence, and that depth kind of just wasn't there for me. Baldur's Gate is absolutely hitting that spot. It's doing what I want it to do in terms of giving me choice, consequence, real consequences that you feel. And if you don't like those consequences, tough. Unless you're going to reload 10 hours worth of save and do it all over again, you're going to have to lie in the bed that you've made, and you may not even be aware that you're making it at the time. I felt like Starfield had more guardrails than this does. Baldur's Gate is, potentially much more intimidating as an RPG in that regard.
Much more challenging, yeah.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. If you want something that pushes the boundary of the games that you expect and the kind of expectations that you've got of an RPG game, yes, you might not like turn-based that much. I'm not a turn-based guy. It's one of the reasons why I never really got on board with Final Fantasy. I don't like turn-based experiences, but having played D&D with some really good friends, it gave me the groundwork and the understanding that I needed to understand how this game works. And you very quickly look past it. The gameplay loop is actually very approachable, especially for control, like playing on a controller as well. Like it's kind of easy. Like it's comfortable to play. The game isn't easy necessarily, but it's approachable enough that it doesn't necessarily feel like you're being gate kept by it being a CRPG and you being a console player. It doesn't feel off-putting in that regard, which I really like about it.
Yeah, Why So Serious in the chat said that he wants to rage quit because he can't get past the beginning, and it is challenging, but I would say it depends on your party and who you're using, what class you are. Like, there's easier classes to use than others. Like, I wouldn't jump in and start playing a wizard or a spellcaster, a sorcerer, or something like that right away until you kind of learn the ropes using some of those people in your parties. I would start with like a fighter or a barbarian, something like that. They're much easier to play because they're real basic, those are better to play. Also, if you can't beat certain things, I mean, there's no shame at the beginning of the game. If you're still learning, put it on easy. Try to beat it on easy, and then work your way up. I play on normal. I just play on the middle setting, the normal setting. Actually, now there's a new setting. There's an even harder setting than Tactician. It's honor mode, and that one, if your party dies, they're gone, and then you have to like start over or something, or you don't get
over.
Yeah, it's terrible. I wouldn't play that. There's no way, because I've died many times in this game. I am not the best at this game. Don't claim to be, but I love playing it. No. I think I found, even though that turn-based isn't the best, like it's not the funnest gameplay for me, turn-based games, but this one I actually find a lot of fun trying to find the right combo of party members and stuff. I have a blast.
What happens in combat, but actually some of the stuff that's happening outside of combat as well. Some of the encounters that you get. There was I'm not going to spoil anything, but I was at. Just going to try and be as ambiguous as possible. So sorry in advance if this sounds really vague, but I really don't want to spoil it. But there's an area that I needed to clear out in Act 1. I knew for a fact that I wasn't, because I tried and failed a couple of times, that I wasn't powerful enough to get through it on my own. Yep. And I ran into a group of characters, managed to take control of the conversation, and they ended up saying, hey, if you need a hand, and we'll get something out of it as well, take this object, and you can signal us if you need it. And I walked straight into the area that I needed to clear out, used the object, and got the support that I needed. And that was how I solved that issue. The amount of agency that you have in this game is truly astounding. It is remarkable how much agency you're given as a player, and I think I love how it kind of encourages that sort of that thinking outside the box. There's no right or wrong answer in Baldur's Gate. Actually, very similar to how it is in Dungeons and Dragons. There is no right or wrong answer, as long as you're playing within the rules. And I like how creative you can be in Baldur's Gate 3. I'm astounded by it, genuinely, and I'm really enjoying my time there. And I'm so surprised by that, because I honestly didn't think I would. I was going to buy it because I respected the pedigree, I respected the amount of noise, but I did it going, I'm not going to be happy if I don't love this, but I'm going to give it a fair shot. One, because I'm spending the money, and two, because I've heard the amount of noise about it. So there must be something to it. And within an hour, I was like, man, I can't put this down.
yeah, that's how I was too.
So good.
Even though I was looking forward to the game for a while, but I was playing Starfield at the time, and I loved my time with Starfield. Although I will say, and I said it here last week too, and weeks prior, had I played this game before Starfield, I would have been nitpicking Starfield. And that it's not to say that Starfield's a bad game, because it's not. It's a great game, but it doesn't really shine as an RPG the way this game does. Again, it's the amount of choice and it's the amount of consequences you get within this game that really set it apart from any other RPG. And it's not just Starfield. Any other RPG, I don't care what RPG it is. This game has way more options in it than any other RPG I've ever played. Has way more consequences that mean that are really significant, and just it's insane. It's a testament to, when all those articles were being written about those developers and stuff that were upset over this game, saying that they don't want this to become the standard or have people think it's going to become the standard. That's a testament to how good this game is. All those developers are scared of this game because they either can't or they don't want to put this much effort into their games to build it this way. That's what's crazy. It's not just us talking about this. The developers are saying it. Yeah.
Do you think that, because obviously there was a lot of noise and a lot of hype around Starfield, and I was with you on that hype. I love Starfield, by the way. I think it's a fantastic game. It's not a perfect game. And I do think that this year it shouldn't have been nominated for Game of the Year. As much as I would have liked to have seen it, I definitely wasn't.
I still think that Starfield could have been named Game of the Year. I personally think it could have been there.
I was going to ask
omitted
if Baldur's Gate hadn't come out and set the bar that it had, do you think Starfield could have won it, or at least been nominated for it?
No, I don't even think it's a problem with Baldur's Gate. I think it's a problem with a couple of the games that were nominated for Game of the Year that I thought were completely. It was ridiculous. Like Resident Evil 4, I don't think needs to be there. It's a remake. I think remakes, remasters should be put in a different category. And of course, you've got Spider-Man 2, which I don't think is a phenomenal game. I think it's a good game. It's fun. It's enjoyable. My daughter just beat it, by the way. My 9-year-old went through the game, played it, beat the whole game, and at the end, I don't know if I should even say this, but at the very end of the game,
I haven't played it yet.
She says, "No, it doesn't spoil anything." She threw that down the controller and said, "This game is trash," and I just laughed because of what happens at the end. She didn't like it. My 9-year-old even saw the goofiness that happens in this game, and I didn't say anything to her. She loves the Spider-Man games, but she prefers Miles Morales like I do over this new game. It's just, the narrative is just, it's cringe-inducing at times. It's not great. It just had no business being there as Game of the Year. The only one category I could understand could be there is Action Game of the Year. I could kind of see that. But even my 9-year-old, this game is trash. And I was just like, I started laughing. I was like, wow. I knew what happens at the end would have that effect on her. But I wasn't expecting those words.
I think as a personal preference as well for me, I am getting kind of tired of quick time events, and not being able to take full control of certain situations that might be particularly exciting or engaging, that are just locked behind a cinematic with a couple button pushes. I know we talked about how Sony's tried and true template might be wearing out. I'm still excited about Spider-Man 2. I'm a big
play it.
Spidey fan generally.
It's good. It's good. The combat's good. I would say the combat is great. It's great. The combat is great, but it's, again, like I was speaking about earlier, a lot of Sony games, they kind of take the controls away from you a lot. And it does that here too. And I kind of get why they do a lot of QTEs with Spider-Man, because there's a lot of moves and stuff he does that really wouldn't.
It was very complicated to do.
It would be complicated to do that with you controlling
free flow. That's
So I get why they do some of that, and I forgive them for that. But for me, it's not even those moments that take it away from me. It's the narrative. It's the dialogue between MJ and Peter and Miles. I think it's just horribly written between those three. I think Kraven is a great villain. I think Venom is a great villain, but it's just those three. It's like, gosh, can you not do better with the dynamic between their relationship? Like it's stupid. It's stupid at times.
Yeah. But I'm going to end up experiencing it for myself fairly soon.
Because there's a couple of parts in it I really just want to blurt out and tell people, but I don't want to spoil it, because I know some people haven't played it yet. But there's a couple parts that when people tell me it isn't that bad, I just want to tell these two parts because they're so stupid, and everybody would be like, yeah, that's pretty bad. It's pretty dumb. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. There is something to being able to enjoy, something that's quite Hollywoody, something that's very easy to consume, something that, visually Spider-Man 2 does look like a fantastic spectacle. Those cutscenes look fantastic. The gameplay, the exploration, the movement. I loved the traversal in Spider-Man 1 remastered.
And I think it's even better now. I think the added web wings is great. Great.
The different tools and options that you've got to be able to move. Like I'm really excited about getting into that and mastering that movement, because that movement is so fun. I'm expecting it to be a little bit more tactile. Hopefully they've sort of pushed what the DualSense can do a little bit.
I would not know about that, because I shut off my DualSense right away when I bought my PS5. Yeah, I don't even play with the vibrations on the Xbox at all. My controllers, I always shut off vibration. One of the reasons why I do it is, well, first of all, I feel like it's just gimmicky. Even with the DualSense, I don't like my triggers fighting back and stuff. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But the other reason why is because it affects battery life big time when you leave that stuff on. And with the PlayStation controller, we're talking a difference of 4 hours and 7 hours, turning everything off. So
yeah, the PlayStation controllers, I've noticed they really don't last long.
They're terrible.
With battery life at all. And not to get all console worry here, but my Elite Series 2 controller, that lasts.
I don't have an Elite.
The Elite controllers are fantastic. My biggest issue with them is the build quality, because their sticks just drift over
This is my favorite controller right here.
Oh,
the Starfield controller is my favorite. That one is my favorite. I love really the grip. Nice. It's got like this rubber texture on the back, but it just it's such a nice looking controller. It's my favorite by far. I
love the overall design aesthetic for Starfield, and not just in game but out of game as well. The way they've done their artwork, their graphic design, they're just sort of that kind of
that retro 70s vibe. Yeah, I love it.
It's like modern retro, isn't it? It's beautifully balanced. What do they call it? NASA punk. I love the art style. It's one of my favorite things about Starfield, and I think it really helps with that immersion of the world as well. I've got nothing but positive things to say about Starfield, with the exception of some of the things I critiqued it for in my review. To be fair, I did think it was a brilliant game, but yeah, going back to Baldur's Gate 3, it does blow it out of the water. It really, really does.
Yeah, that's why I feel so sad when some people say, I hate turn-based, I'm not going to try it. And I'm like, I don't want to tell people spend 60, 70 bucks on a game if they're going to end up hating it. But I've had some people, based on my gushing about it here on this show, actually try it and tell me they didn't like turn-based, but they bought it based on what I've said about it. And they hit me up and said, man, the game is amazing. It's really drew them in. And I'm like, you see, it's you can get past that
combat. The combat loop is just a tiny part of what that game has to offer, because actually, like, you're not in combat that often. I mean, based on how often you have to rest, how
there's a lot of dialogue. And I don't want to make it seem boring, like you're just watching a movie. There's a lot of exploration. So you're actually controlling the characters walking around, in real time, and you're actually exploring a lot and finding a lot. Like there's things in that game I'm still finding in Act 1 today. Like it blows me away, because I've got one character in Act 2, which is the last act. Act 3. I got one in Act 3, one in Act 2, and one in Act 1. And it's amazing the stuff that, I'm still finding. And I'm like, wow, I didn't catch this on my last one. And like even my daughter, I have an adult daughter that plays the game on her PS5, and she tells me some things. Did you get this or that? And I'm like, no, where'd you get that? And she's like, oh, it's in Act 1. And sure enough, I go and I find it, and I'm like, damn it, how did I miss that? But yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, really cool.
It's crazy. The scale of it is stunning. It really is. And actually, you've touched on it yourself with the replayability, the fact that you're running 3 different characters, they're 3 different experiences. I'm assuming they're 3 completely different builds as well.
Different builds, got the Dark Edge, different classes.
Whatever your two others are. There's, and I'm also going to go ahead and assume that some of the dialogue options that you've been given as in your Dark Urge playthrough, they probably don't show up at all on either of the others.
No, they don't. Without spoiling anything, I can't even say that. But yeah, you're going to get a lot of dialogue that is not present in the other version. Yeah, a lot of dialogue, and you're going to be doing things. Really you're going to be doing things out of your control too in that playthrough, where you're going to be like, no, okay, but it's so good. It's so good.
It's already happened to me a few times, and again, like there's one thing that I could have obtained from a character, but I turned it down, and then probably within an hour of turning it down, killed her. And I have since found out that I may actually need the thing that she offered me to have an easier time later in the game, but there's nothing I can do about it, and I don't know when that's going to come to fruition. I don't know when that's going to come and bite me in the ass. I'm just going to have to wait and see. But I already know I want to play it through again so that I can pick some different paths and, play in a very different way. And like I said, the combat is a really small part of that game. The exploration, the interaction, the dialogue, the storytelling, the amount of ways that there are to achieve a certain goal it's crazy.
Not only that, the acting in the game, really good.
Yes,
really
it's good. Really good.
The voice acting is so good. That they brought back some of the voice actors to add even more dialogue recently to the game.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they wanted more implemented into the game, and they added more dialogue, more.
Yeah.
So the guy who won. That plays Astarion, that won at the awards for Best Actor for the video game. Yeah, he even came back and did more dialogue for Larian. It's just they're still adding stuff to this game today, and I think that's just great.
Yeah,
well,
it's awesome.
Deadly, it's been a wonderful show with you. I'm going to have to end it here, but I want to let everybody know where they can find you and stuff, or you let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah,
because
sure.
It's been
so you can find me You can find me on Twitter at Deadly Headley _. You can find me on Threads at, I think it's just at Deadly Headley. Go and check out my YouTube channel, which is in the description down below. Also, just Deadly Headley. Fonz, by the way, you need to follow me on Twitter because you haven't actually done that.
What? No, I have, haven't I?
It's true. It's true. No,
dude.
you haven't. But that's fine. That's fine. I'm
I
not upset about it. You've had me on your show, and it's been wonderful. It's been
I'm
a
an
real
ass
pleasure, by
hat
the
for
way, man.
that.
I appreciate that a lot.
It's because I've been DMing you. I thought I was already following you.
No, you're good, man.
Oh,
You're good. I'm just
God.
messing. But no,
That's fixed
I've had a
now.
really good time
I
today.
just
Thank
fixed
you.
it.
And yeah, if you wanna go and check out any of my content that I've put out, I'm strongly going to recommend that you go and check out the Halo Infinite was snubbed by the Game Awards video. The view count on that is astoundingly low, and it is a video that I was really, really proud of and spent a lot of time crafting. So go and check that out. Go and check out my take on that. I am currently working on a video that is going to talk about Sony's pursuit of gas and where I think that might go. So look out for that. Probably next week with all the festivities coming up and all that sort of stuff. I think time's probably going to blur into one soon, but I am going to be making content over the festive holidays. So that should be fun. So yeah, there's more coming from me. Go and check out my channel. Like I said, it's in the description down below. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Threads if you use that. I like Threads a lot, but I have like nobody on there. So if anyone's using Threads,
I don't use it. So
it's nice, man. It's basically Twitter, but just not toxic. It's good.
Yeah,
it's just quiet.
Because there's nobody there. Okay, it would be toxic.
No, there's nobody there. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time with me today, Deadly.
Thank
been
you for
awesome.
having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. As soon as I saw your stuff, I was like, man, I got to have this guy on. And then when Gaz had you on and I saw you there, I was like, hold up. You got Deadly first. This is not right. This is not fair. I thought I found this guy.
I'm so glad we got to hang out on that show, man. It was a lot of fun.
I know. Gaz is a good friend of mine. Asa and Gaz are just awesome. Legendary Drops in the chat. Hey, welcome. We just gushed about Baldur's Gate 3 the last 40 minutes. Check that out. We just had a good time talking about Baldur's Gate 3. He's a guy, Legendary Drops. He has his own YouTube channel. He talks about RPGs and stuff, and he loves Baldur's Gate as well. But yeah. He says, Fonz Gaming, play games with me. Yeah, I know, man. We're both out of work right now. Not to put your business out there, but you've already done that on your own channel.
And yes, Bobba, you do see a guitar in the background. I wouldn't go as far as shredding. I am extremely rusty. But yeah.
He has a guitar. The man plays guitar too. Well, thank you for coming by today. Thank you to everybody watching this live, listening after the fact, or watching it after the fact. I appreciate all of you. And I have to say, next week, it'll be Christmas Eve, I believe. I will not have a show Christmas Eve. I'll be with the family, hanging out with them, just having a great time. But the week after, I will be back.
The week after that is New Year's Eve.
Is it really?
New Year's Eve show? Yeah, it is. It is because my D&D group and I were just trying to figure out when our next session is because we usually do Sundays. So yeah, we've got Christmas Eve. Then New Year's Eve.
I might do one on Saturday then that week. I don't know, but this weekend, I can't do it. It's Christmas Eve. It's not a good time. Not a good time. No, it's a good time for me and my family. All right. Well, until next time, guys.
Make sure everybody hits that like button on the way out.
Yes. See how much I don't even say that often. Hargeet, I see you in the chat, brother. Thank you for coming by. I don't know if you saw it earlier, but I shouted you out. Hargeet's been a great friend of this podcast and myself for some time now, and he's a great guy, man. Love you, Geet. Great guy. Until next time, game on.